And this week, thousands celebrated at a rainy stadium in Nelson Mandela's home of South Africa, including President George W. Bush, President Bill Clinton, Secretary of State, former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, President Barack Obama and his wife Michelle Obama, Laura Bush as well, also Attorney General Eric Holder, Raul Castro, Desmond Tutu, Oprah Winfrey, just a couple of notable individuals that made their way to South Africa to celebrate the life of the one and only Madiba, also known as Nelson Mandela. Now, I got to tell you, folks, growing up, for me, and I don't think I've ever had a moment to personally reflect on Nelson Mandela and what he means. I think what he means to everybody, but especially what he means to me. I think growing up in the African American community, right, Nelson Mandela was this figure that was sort of larger than life to a lot of us. I mean, I remember I can distinctly remember going to my aunt's house and seeing Nelson Mandela's picture, even at my grandmother's home, Nelson Mandela's picture on the wall. For my grandmother, she was Catholic, so it was Nelson Mandela's picture right next to the Pope, right? And for my aunt, it was Nelson Mandela's picture right next to MLK and Malcolm X. He is such an iconic world figure who stood for, I think sometimes our greatness is beyond us. And he was one person that understood that. And he was the essence of that our greatness is beyond us because it's the legacy that we leave behind, even before we die, right? This Nelson Mandela was memorialized in his life. And that is why, now people talked about the president taking a selfie and how they felt as though it was disrespectful. And I said, and my argument to that is, not at all, if you understood the life of Nelson Mandela. See, because this wasn't really a funeral to mourn the death. This was an occasion to celebrate the life. And in celebrating said life, you take photos, right? And I think that is what this stood for. This guy was a figure who deserved to be celebrated for what he did to the world. Not only did he end apartheid in Africa, all right, and not only was he jailed for 27 years, but he spoke for human rights for millions, let me take that back, billions of people all across this world. Billions. And that is the essence of who Nelson Mandela was. Somebody who always believed that love could conquer hatred. But somebody who also said, hey, listen, sometimes revolutions have to be violent. Sometimes they do. And that is what we celebrated. And that is what this president celebrated. And that is why this whole controversy about him shaking Raul Castro's hand or him taking a selfie is just that. Controversy based on this idea that there should be more. And this is a celebratory time. Whether you're communist, you're a neo-Nazi, or whoever, you're celebrating the life of somebody who fundamentally changed the world. And that is what this president did, and that is why he shook Raul Castro's hand.